Joining me now, former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and 2020 presidential candidate, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. It's very good to see you, Mayor Pete. Thank you very much. I know how actively you were campaigning for Joe Biden. And this morning, the president's national security advisor, Robert O'Brien, did say if Biden is determined the winner, and he used the conditional rather than making it very clear, he said, quote, obviously things look that way now. They'll have a very professional transition. That's not what we're hearing from the president or his other supporters, from all the people who are being misled by the president and gathered here and others around the country, maybe 73 million people who voted for him. And many of them do not believe that Joe Biden was elected legally.
This is really unfortunate because we have a result and the country needs to move on. So does the transition. Now, the transition is a phenomenally talented group of dedicated public servants who are doing their job as effectively as they can. But each passing day that this denial goes on, it has a real cost. It sounds from the language of the National Security Advisor and others like they're sort of gradually trying to ease the president into recognizing reality. Unfortunately, whether it's on things like climate change, things like COVID, or things like his own election defeat, recognizing reality has not always been a strong suit over there. But this really has implications for the ability of this transition to do what it needs to, which is work very swiftly in order to prepare the incoming president, the president-elect, and the American people for what's ahead.
President-elect Biden is still not getting intelligence briefings. How big of a concern is that to you? You're a former veteran. You're a veteran, I should say, of Afghanistan.
It's a real concern. I mean, I think back to my days being involved in counterterrorism. You really want to know what the threat streams are, what's materializing now, what's anticipated for the near future. You want to know intelligence on what's happening, maybe non-public information about what's happening in our relationships with other countries and other leaders. Think about this. There are foreign leaders calling to congratulate the president-elect where he could benefit from context about those leaders or their countries that he's not getting. Of course, we also know that the State Department right now is not doing what it should by protocol and forwarding some of the messages that have come in from leaders around the world to the president-elect. Again, look, the transition has people who have served in the intelligence community and national security community through many administrations, and they're doing the work that they need to do to prepare policy structure, but they're missing a very important piece of this. And there's a real national security cost to each passing day that the president-elect and his team aren't getting the information they need.
Speaking of the State Department, Mike Pompeo has arrived in Turkey. He's on a 7-nation tour. He left Paris today, rebuffed by any public events with the French leaders, although they said it was because of the COVID lockdown. There's some question about that because they have come out and very strongly reached out to Joe Biden. Pompeo, notably, last week said that there will be a smooth transition to the second Trump administration. The leader said he was joking, but he has projected around the world that he's one of the resistors, one of the deniers. How dangerous is that?
Well, remember, the U.S. has historically been viewed as the world's leading democracy. And as we speak, he's traveling around a region that is not one where democracy has fully been embraced. So for him to have to clear up whether he's joking about a peaceful, orderly transition of power in a free and fair election in the United States of America, that's not just a setback for the perception of the U.S., that's a setback for democracy itself. Look, he remains the Secretary of State for the next 65 days at the pleasure of the outgoing president. But if he is going to travel abroad, it's really important not to be sending confusing or mixed signals, given that a lot of policies are likely to change when President Biden takes office next year. And again, to have him going around saying anything other than what you would expect people who participate in an electoral democracy to say, which is that we embrace and accept the results of an election, whether it's our side or the other side that wins. So look, the ability of those who lose elections to handle that It's actually one of the bedrock building blocks of democracy. And each day that they fail to do that, whether it's because of the president's feelings or because I don't know what it's about, because even they clearly understand that he's not going to be able to somehow reverse the election and the will of the American people. But whatever is motivating it, it is costly, not just to the interests of the United States, but to the interests of democracy itself.
There are a lot of concerns that the president will order an immediate withdrawal from Afghanistan before he leaves office. Having served there, should he be doing that in this lame duck period after cleaning house at the Pentagon and putting in his loyalists?
Again, when you're talking about something as serious as war and peace, it's one of the areas where it's most important for there to be some level of continuity or consistency, or at least communication between outgoing and incoming administrations. It's tough to know exactly what the president has in mind. He may simply be continuing to say what he always says, or there may be some intention of action behind it. But sending mixed signals or making precipitous decisions in the final days of an administration is not likely to be conducive to long-term or near-term American or regional security interests. We've got to have some coordination here, which is why it's all the more important that they take that first vital step, which is to recognize reality and get together. You know, earlier on the program, you heard the economic kind of equivalent, a story that's not often remembered, at least not remembered often enough, which was the way that the outgoing Bush administration and the incoming Obama administration really cooperated on rescuing the auto industry. Their ability to do that saved countless livelihoods in my part of the country. Similarly, on matters of war and peace, you need to make sure that you lay policy aside, put together some cohesive handoff plan so that countries around the world are not guessing on what the most powerful country in the world is about to do.
Yeah, and their chiefs of staff were working in the Situation Room on Inauguration Day about a possible terror threat against the inauguration as well. Very quickly, have you been talking to the transition, or would you accept a post in the new administration?
So I've been honored to participate on the advisory board, helping the transition do their important work, and really focused on making sure that the president-elect is off to a great start. I would love a chance to return to public service, but that's for the president-elect to decide. And this administration is going to have enthusiastic support from me, whether I'm on the inside or the outside.
Mayor Pete, thanks so much. It's great to see you. Thanks for being with us today.
Same here. Good to be with you.